In this tutorial, we're going to talk about different ways to handle some of the shifts instruction in geometry for grades 3 and 4 required by the Common Core State Standards. They really upped the game in terms of identifying geometric shapes in the Common Core State Standards for these grades. No longer are students just counting the number of shapes or outlining the regular polygons. What students need to do is really discover shared attributes of shapes and differences. So, for example, looking at quadrilaterals, they might decide what do rhombuses and squares have in common and what are different. In grades 4, for example, it specifically states that students will be able to identify different forms of triangles. So one way to really get this point across for students is to use some concept mapping software. I really enjoy the free app, and that's what we're going to show today, Idea Sketch. So if we started with quadrilaterals, we could then go to examples of quadrilaterals. All you have to do is drag a box out, drop your line, and you'll get another box. And I can just type in examples and be done with that. So what are some examples of quadrilaterals? As you can see, sometimes the touch is a little sensitive. Well, we have the square, rectangle, and what I'm doing is I'm just taking my finger, going from the box I want to start from. As you can see, I can sometimes hit the box and it gets bigger and I can move it. But if you just take your finger and drag out of the box, I can then add a new box. Rhombus. And there'll be enough examples for now. So you just slide to add another shape. So if I slide from the rhombus to another shape, I can then do it in. So I have 3 examples of quadrilaterals. So then what I can do is, well, let's add actually parallelograms here by just dragging out. Now you'll notice that this word doesn't fit in the box. So if I click on the box, I can change my font size by picking the letters. So I'll go so the word fits. Now I can then classify my examples. I can classify them by, I want to add a new shape, sides, angles. Now I just made a mistake, so I can just hit the undo button. I want to move my angles over, move my sides over. Again, I made a mistake, so I'll hit undo. Okay, and now I can classify these shapes. Now, about the sides. So I just drag from there, and 4 sides. What shapes have 4 sides? All of them. So I can just connect it. Oops, and I dropped it, so let me hit undo. Connect to there. rectangle, we connect the four sides, rhombus, let me connect to four sides. So now they all have four sides. However, looking at those shapes, there are some differences. So for sides, I could have equal sides, and I could have opposite sides. Whoa, big. So let's say, for example, a square. A square has four equal sides. I just made a mistake, so I hit the undo button again. And I can write on that, four equal sides. Four equal sides. So the square then gets four equal sides. You know what? Maybe it makes more sense not to place the four equal sides there, but put the note here. And you could just keep going through and doing that. And over time, you end up with a concept map of different forms of parallelograms. You could do that for opposite sides. For example, you could talk about how the rectangle has two pairs of opposite sides. You could then talk about the different kinds of angles, which ones have four equal angles, which quadrilaterals have different angles. And you can draw lines and different concept maps to connect across them. Now, you can then go look at your different, you can look at the outline format, and you can then change back to the shape format simultaneously.